The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The season, the 2025 season is back to being off again. I'm not really sure how this works, but welcome in Off the Bench, Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. And yes, Pearl has still not run away yet. We have not scared her off. But, happy Wednesday, everybody. Good morning. How are we back in the old Hamilton studio?
We're good. We're good. It's a glorious day. It's supposed to rain. Hopefully the rain holds off today. But yeah, I mean it's all good vibes, and what happened last night was expected. Shout out to Jacob and I.
That's right.
And we're gonna do it again today, and because this is who we are. We know
our like B- bit
Yeah.
becomes close to A+ when they actually lose 1-0.
My fatal flaw is not betting on it.
David
That's-
Shaw, our wonderful listener in the chat, he texted me last night and said that he did bet on the Pirates to win that game 1-0, and that got him a nice chunk of change.
That's all I wish. That's all I want. So when we do the bit today, I will be betting it, of course.
Well, my problem with Shaw is you can't sit here and brag about winning money and then just send in a free message to let us know that you've won money. A super chat would have been nice.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shaw.
That's right.
Super chat to let us know of your winnings would have been nice. But yes, I mean, it's becoming a safe bet. The fifth 1-0 loss for the Cincinnati Reds this season. I mean, that's pretty impressive. We're not even a full 2 months into the season yet.
Yeah, what is it, 50 games?
50.
Yeah, that's a
25.
lot of 1-0
They've
losses.
been shut out 8 times. Come on.
Is that not good? 8 times in 50 games? That's not good?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, we know who this team is. We're all aware of it. They've got today to not kill Kinner's momentum from his series win this weekend.
Kinner, can you call another sweep?
Yeah, if they lose it today, I mean, I don't know what else do you want me to say.
What do you think they're gonna do? Win a rubber match?
No, I don't.
But I could see, like, what, they lose today, off day tomorrow, sweep the Cubs. And then we start this whole thing over again next week.
That's right.
It's how it seems to work.
It's
This
a
is fun
vicious
song and
cycle.
dance.
It is a
Yeah.
set.
A vicious cycle.
It's just a roller coaster. You just go like this the whole season long, and obviously the season ends with a downtrend. But
Always.
that's
It usually starts down
Yeah.
and ends down. And then it's just whatever you get in the middle, you get in the middle.
yeah.
Unless you just, I mean, all I'm pulling for is just win game 162. If you just win game 162, send us out with the victory into the offseason.
Yeah.
There you go. But yes, we're going to get there. Our guy Terry Francona, public enemy number 1 today, and I laughed so hard because a lot of on Chatterbox social media, just like anyone else's social media, when it comes to these public accounts like this, like a lot of our clips are scheduled out. Okay, now yesterday, Elliot asked Marty his thoughts. Marty Brenneman joined us yesterday. If you missed that, go check it out. But yesterday, Elliot had asked him about the differences between a David Bell-led team and this Francona-led team. And, of course, Marty would go on to say it's night and day, just how great everything is with Terry Francona. So that's after the show yesterday. That is clipped. It was scheduled for this morning. We didn't know that Terry Francona was going to have the night that he had. And, of course, the comments are not so kind and friendly when it comes to people's thoughts on Marty Brenneman's relationship with Terry Francona at this point.
Look, if we know anything about Reds fans, especially their relationships with the manager, it's not reactionary at all.
No.
So it's not by a game-by-game basis. They're very even-keel, level-headed. They'll be able to grade Terry Francona at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
No knee-jerk reactions.
Oh, yeah.
We won't fire David Bell because we have 0 talent on the roster and everyone's hurt.
Won't happen. We don't want it to happen. Kirby brought up a good point last night. If David Bell did that last night, David Bell wouldn't have left Pittsburgh. No. The Reds fans would have bought.
There's
him.
a river pretty close.
Yeah, they would have bought him a house in Pittsburgh and here, you just live here now.
I don't know. I mean, people are pretty aggressive with Tito right now. I feel like, and we're going to get into it more in a moment, but Yeah, the people, that's the most angry I've seen them at Francona since he got here. And there have been some games and series where Francona's been getting criticized a lot. I know Marty kind of referenced that yesterday a little bit, that I think that people are very short-tempered with Francona because of the fact that he was kind of viewed as the savior, even though he's not a miracle worker as Francona, or as Marty mentioned yesterday. But look, we'll get into Francona in a moment. I know we have a lot to talk about with that. We're going to get to Joe Burrow. He addressed the media yesterday. He touched on Trey Hendrickson. He touched on a couple of the scheduling quirks with the Bengals schedule that came out, and just a couple takeaways from that. As far as that goes, nothing major new with the Cincinnati Bengals. We did lightly touch on the fact that Shamar Stewart is still sitting out right now as they still try to navigate through that roster, or that the contract structure and all that fun stuff. So always something when it comes to that. We'll keep an eye on that as well. But we got plenty to get into here today. But hey, let's do what we always do when we kick off the show. At least I don't know the last time we've done this in the opening segment. But hey, let's get weird today. Let's kick off the show with Elliot's headlines.
Score updates, breaking news, local and national headlines, whatever's going on in the world of sports, Elliot has you covered. Off the Bench brings you Elliot's headlines.
The Reds. Woo! They start the game off with a leadoff triple. They started the game off yesterday with a leadoff triple. They proceeded to not score any runs in the entire 9-inning game that they played.
I want to know how many times that's happened. I don't know how to Google it.
Very few.
But I want to know how many times you've been shut out after a leadoff triple.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's very much. They proceeded to not score at all. They lose 1-0. Martinez pitched as well as he could possibly pitch. 6 innings of 1 earned run. Baseball only allowing 4 hits. The Reds.
He's been on it.
He's been on it.
His last few starts have been awesome.
Since we said he should be in the bullpen,
correct,
he has been lights out.
Yeah.
The Reds are back at it at 12:35 today. Andrew Heaney versus Brady Singer. Brady Singer coming in with a 5.01 ERA. Heaney has a 3.02 ERA. That is at 12:35. And I guess we'll just do it right now because why not? We have the lineup already for that game.
Oh, read it like
hey,
Jimmy.
I have a question. Where? Yeah, I was going to say the Jimmy thing. Where is the National League Player of the Week hitting in today's lineup? He was out of yesterday's lineup, but surely he's back in the lineup today, right?
Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Leading off in center. Actually wasn't this Pearl's? Were we gonna do this with Pearl?
Oh.
Should we let Pearl do it? Is Pearl ready?
I can.
Can you do it? Do you have the lineup?
Pearl, with all love to my dear
momento,
friend
I can
Jimmy
do it.
Collins.
Yeah.
The bar is
I can-
so low
I can give
when
more
it comes
oomph
to
than
interns
that.
reading the lineup.
Oh, okay. Well,
Very, very low bar.
Whatever. I got
So we're just going to need you to
Okay.
get going here, and we'll be good to go.
I'm getting all confident. Maybe
Okay.
I shouldn't. I don't
Start from the top.
Okay.
Every once in a while, make eye contact with the camera. Just look up. That way, we're going to this.
I thought
this
you were
is
just
a whole
hearing
work.
me. Ugh.
Every now and then.
Every now and then.
This
All
is
right?
a visual show.
All right. Leading off
Oh.
at center field, TJ Friedl.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Batting second at third base, Santiago Espinal.
Yeah. Hero of last night's game.
Love when he bats second.
Batting third at short, Elly De La Cruz.
Woo!
Batting four, DH, Austin Hayes.
There we go.
Batting five, first base, Spencer Steer. Batting six, catching, Tyler Stevenson.
let's go.
Out and left, Connor Joe. Batting eight at second base, Matt McClain. Batting ninth in right field, Reese Hines. And your starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, Brady Singer.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
I like the gavel bang. That's good.
Yes. Connor Joe.
Nailed it.
That's my guy,
Nice
Connor
When we
Joe.
traded for Connor Joe, I thought, thank God, there's our everyday outfielder.
Yeah. He's actually hitting better than I thought. So good,
Yeah, well, that'll last.
good for Connor. I feel like he's gotten caught stealing twice on
Yeah.
egregious plays.
On
But
third base the first time.
yeah, it's tough. Moving on, Major League Baseball. The Dodgers, they win 4-3 in extras over the Diamondbacks. Angels, they win 7-5 over the Athletics. They have now won 5 in a row. The Royals fall to the Giants 3-2. Rockies, they lose to the Phillies 7-4. They now fall to 8-40 on the season. Whenever you think you're bad, just remember that the Colorado Rockies play in the toughest place to play.
We swept them.
That's right, we did. That's right. The Tigers, they win 5-4 over the St. Louis Cardinals. The White Sox, they blanked the Mariners 1-0, their first win since beating the Reds in a series. The Brewers, they beat the Orioles. The Orioles, shout out to them, man. They have 3 wins in the month of May. They have lost 8 in a row. Tough. The Padres, they get shut out by the Blue Jays 3-0. Vladdy hits a home run last night. The Yankees, they win 5-2 over the Rangers. The Rays, they beat the Astros 3-2. And the Mets, they fall to the Red Sox 2-0. Cora and Buehler both ejected in that game after arguing a missed call. The Cubs, they blast the Marlins off the face of the earth, 14-1, the final score in that game.
Wish we could have done that.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody's able to beat the Marlins.
It's tough.
It is tough to beat one of the world's worst teams and franchises and organizations.
That guy that struck us out 16 times, is he doing anything these days?
Good question. What was his name? Max Meyer?
I believe so.
So let's look at Max Meyer's stats real quick. Just a quick hijack.
I hope
of
he
this
pitched
segment.
yesterday.
He has given up. So these are his last since. Okay, this is actually really funny. Since shutting out the Reds, he went 6 innings, struck out 14 Reds. Since that game, he's played in 4 games and he's given up 5, 10, 15, 18 runs.
Oh my God.
He's given up 18 runs since shutting out the Cincinnati Reds with 14 strikeouts.
That's such a Reds thing.
Oh yeah,
That
would
brutal.
happen.
That's tough. Good for him, though. I'm happy for him. His career seems to really be taking off. National Hockey League news. The Panthers, they crushed the Hurricanes 5-2 to take Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Good for them. The NBA last night, the Thunder, they crushed the T-Wolves 114-88. SGA dropped 31 points, 9 assists there. Heading over to the NFL, per Diana Rossini, the NFL is likely banning the tush push. That is likely banning the tush push.
There is. The Eagles called in the big guns.
They did.
Howie Roseman called in the big guns. Jason Kelsey is in Minnesota to testify on behalf of the tush push to the NFL owners. So Jason Kelsey, Jeffrey Lurie, and Nick Sirianni are going to testify against the rest of the NFL owners in defense of the tush push, trying to keep it around. So we'll see what happens.
We will see. As for the playoff reseeding proposal, the Lions take that one back. They didn't like that one out in the open. They're withdrawing that reseeding proposal. And finally, NFL owners are expected to discuss and approve contract extension for Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell, obviously, probably the best commissioner in sports. So he will likely be staying as commissioner of the #1 most popular sport. Those are your headlines.
I just want to say the headline's phenomenal. I thought Pearl just knocked it out of the park with the lineup. We are off to a hell of a start on today's show. So nice job, boys and gal. So there we go. Do want to give a shout out to our guy Casey. Casey is off today, and not to alarm it, he's taking care of some personal stuff. We'll be back in the future. We don't know when that'll necessarily be at this point, but he is still with the company, not going anywhere. But the show will look a little different without him for a while, and we'll have an update on when we can expect him to return at some point. But he's 10-day IL, 15-day. I don't know how we're.
I would say it's.
We might be transitioning to the 60.
Yeah, I would say it's closer to that 60-day. I would say it's closer to that 60-day.
We might put him on the 60.
Now, he didn't just get hurt. He's actually been hurt for a while. We just finally decided that.
This is classic CES Spencer Steer model.
Oh my God.
Where he's been battling through it for about a month, and now we'll shut him down.
We thought it was a brief blister, but it actually comes out. It turns out amputation might be needed.
Right.
That's right.
Just weird stuff. There you go. But shout out to our guy Casey. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. We'll talk about your Cincinnati Reds. I'm not claiming them this morning for right now. The Cincinnati Reds look to wrap up the series with the Pirates. Game 3 coming up later, as Elliot mentioned. 12:35 the first pitch. Brady Singer going to be on the mound, and the Reds looking to take this series so they could at least have some momentum heading into the Cubs as they welcome them to Great American Ballpark coming up this weekend. Hunter Green's return on Friday night. Will there be buzz on Friday night, or will we all be buzzed because we've given up on the season if they lose to the Pirates coming up here around the corner? But let's talk about what they did last night, or what they didn't do, or what they should have done. We'll talk about all of that when we come back. 1-0, the Reds lose, the 5th 1-0 loss of the season for the Redlegs. Not a good night at the ballpark. We'll discuss when we come back. I said fifth 1-0 shutout of the season. Jake, you said fourth. Either way, I mean, we're splitting hairs here. Bad versus not as bad. I mean,
terrible.
Yes,
terrible.
It's just,
They'll have their fifth soon enough.
That's right.
Yeah,
oh,
you're right.
hold on. That's too negative. Too negative. I don't like that. Too negative. Whoa. We welcome you guys back again off the bench. Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett. Pearl back with us today again, and we introduced her on the show earlier in the week. Excited to have her back and excited to have her on the show moving forward. So a lot to get into. We'll move over to the Bengals coming up here later on in the program, but people are fired up after last night's 1-0 loss against the Pirates. Look, the Reds are riding a 5-game win streak. They avoided the sweep against the White Sox, taking Game 3 there, which was nothing to brag about. At least they avoided getting swept by the White Sox. My goodness. But then they followed that Game 3 win with 3 straight wins over the Guardians and sweeping Cleveland rivalry weekend. How about that? Sweeping the Guardians at Great American Ballpark, and then a 7-1 win in Game 1 against the Pirates, and all of a sudden it felt like there was a little momentum building. It felt like they were trending in the right direction. And although last night's loss doesn't necessarily mean that they're not trending in the right direction, it's still, they just continuously remind you why Elliot and others are still skeptical about buying in, even when we see glimpses of not greatness, I'll never say greatness, but glimpses of very, very competitive baseball. Last night, although, again, great outing, as we talked about, from Nick Martinez, who's really started to turn the corner, has had, 4, 5, 6 straight very good outings as a starting pitcher at this point, was not off to a great start earlier. But outside of that, again, the bat's just disappearing. We've talked about the numbers for this Reds offense all season. Now, confusing. I mean, they're top 12, top 13 in pretty much every major offensive statistical category out there. But when you watch this team, they're pretty damn bad. This might be the best, worst offense of all time. I don't even know how to describe it at this point. But the offense disappeared last night again, and now it sets up a must-win this afternoon at 12:30, and we all know how good they are in Game 3s.
Before you guys get your daily Elliot rant, I'll just push back on one of the things Skinner dropped in there. He said, this doesn't necessarily mean they're no longer headed in the right direction. I think that's exactly what a 1-0 shootout to the Pirates means. It means that the hope of a 4-game win streak is out the window, and we're seeing kind of what we've seen from the Reds over the last few years, and the trend we were hoping they'd buck. You play well, you sweep a team you probably shouldn't sweep, and then you turn around and play a team you should beat pretty handedly, and you struggle, and to a point where you get shut out and you lose 1-0, and this is the story of the Reds over the last few years. Even 2023, when they were as competitive as we've seen in recent history, excluding COVID, they would sweep and then lose a series to a team. And it was inexplicable why they got the wins where they did and the losses where they did. So it really just feels like we're back in the same boat this year.
You take 3 steps forward, then you take 4 steps back. It's been the story of the Reds for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 30 years. It's just who they are. You know, Kinner's they're not trending in the right direction. Whatever, they're in the same direction they've been in for a very, very long time, and that's just a circle to nowhere. They just spin around and do a circle. That's all they do. Terry Francona. Are you going to get upset about last night? Sure. I mean, it was poor managing by Terry Francona, but I also don't think, like, if you ask me, do I trust his judgment? Yeah, I'll trust his judgment more times than not. So I'm not going to get too upset about a team that didn't score any runs through 8 innings against a pitcher who's not very good, and then we expect, Will Benson to come and save the day in the 9th or the 8th inning, whatever it may be. I'm not saying you give up on the game. I'm not saying you punt on the game. But I would say it's pretty crazy to expect a different result come the 9th inning, I understand that Will Benson's been very, very good since he's been up. I understand Rhys Hines and everybody else. I get it. I get the point. I just, if you're begging for miracles in the 9th and 8th inning, you have much deeper issues than the manager. Much deeper issues.
The Reds are 0-20 this year when trailing after 6 innings. 0-20. So you think who Terry Francona pinch hits in that 8th or 9th inning is going to change 0-20? This is a much bigger problem than 1 or 2 managerial decisions. This team's not there.
Yeah.
It's not good enough.
And I don't mean to say it, but it's like we've seen this story. The book's been written, You guys and everybody else, I still watch the Reds. I still cheer for the Reds. I root for the home team. I get it. But, I mean, you look at this lineup, and I don't know how many times we have to do this song and dance where they just get shut out and look abysmal after scoring 7 or more runs. Because that's what happens. They score 7 or more runs, and I think there's like something that goes on in the clubhouse. It's like, all right, we scored 7. I guess that's good for the week. Well, we're done. We're sitting it out.
They heard us talk about run differential for the last
They did.
20 months, and it penetrated the locker room, and that's all they care about now.
They have to figure out a way to win back-to-back series. They have to. It's inexcusable at this point in this rebuild or whatever you want to call it to not really be any better than you were when you started it. I mean, it's crazy to say, but the starting rotation, has it been great? Yeah, it's been phenomenal. Nick Martinez, Kinner mentioned it, 4 out of his last 5 starts, he's given up 1 or less runs. And the other one was 6 innings, 3 earned runs, which is a quality start. So, like, Nick Martinez has been absolutely nails for this starting rotation the last month and a half, you know. And you go around, we're getting Hunter Green back on Friday, hopefully. Nick Lodolo's been as solid as you could possibly hope for. Andrew Abbott's been lights out. Brady Singer struggled as of late, but he was solid at the beginning of the year. They have enough pieces to make this somewhat work, but you listened to the interview yesterday with Marty, and Marty was 1,000,000,000% right. They did not do enough coming into the season. They did not. I love Austin Hayes. He's been great. I love Gavin Lux. He's been great. Probably better, both of them better than we could have asked for. Jose Trevino, who, by the way, doesn't play anymore, is still hitting above 300 and leading the team in doubles. So, like, the new additions have helped. But they're still not close. You need more. I mean, you just need more. And I don't know when that's going to come. I don't know when Nick Kroll and Brad Meter sit down and say, all right, what we've got going on here, we've run this back 400 times in a row. It's just not working. We got to change something up. I don't know what that change looks like. I'm not the GM. I'm not the president of baseball operations. But I've watched the Reds, and so has everybody else in the city. You know what this team is. I don't give a damn what their run differential is. I don't care. They're plus 38 because they scored 30 unanswered runs against the Orioles. That's why they have that. So that means nothing. You can throw that stat completely out the window. And then you look at the team as a whole outside of, 3 or 4 games, and they don't have it. They don't move the runners over. They don't know how to play fundamental baseball. They started the game off yesterday with a leadoff triple, and they didn't score. It's impossible. It's impossible. So going forward, what do I expect? I don't know. There's no right direction. All they have to do is stack series wins. I've been begging for it. I've been begging for it for 3 years now, and they refuse to do it. You're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. You are not playing the Dodgers. I can't bear to watch this team keep losing to these terrible teams. I know we made the bit all Monday. It's, I'm glad they beat the Guardians. Hopefully they beat the White Sox and the Nationals and the Marlins. You can't lose to the Pirates. You can't do it. You can't go through this stretch and lose the games that they've lost. And they do it. So whatever you expect for the Reds, whatever hero you're expecting, Terry Francona, whatever rabbit out of a hat you're expecting him to pull, you're not going to get. 0-20 when trailing in the 6th inning. It's historic.
In the 6th inning, not the 7th or 8th.
It's historic what's being done here. So no, I don't expect anything different to change. This is who the Reds are. I would bet. I mean, if you had to give me a bet, I mean, we were talking about it during the break. I think Pearl said, we looked up the record. I think it's like 33 times by the 1908 St. Louis Cardinals. 33 times that team was shut out. Obviously, I mean, that's 2 billion years ago. But I mean, 20 shutouts this year, 25. Anything's on the table. So I don't know. I mean, Terry Francona, I think he's done an admirable job. There's been decisions that he's made that I would say are objectively wrong looking back on it. But hindsight's 20/20. So Terry Francona had reasons last night. I don't understand why Will Benson's not in the lineup today, and maybe we can talk about that next. But if you have the answer to the test, you got to use it, Terry. Terry, you got to be better. I mean, you just got to be better.
Speaking of in the lineup, I know he's in the lineup today, but Rhys Hines also on the Major League roster and has basically just been riding pine since he hit that home run a few days ago. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. You call 2 guys up that, who were not in the Major League roster, and a lot of fans were scratching their heads saying, why do we have so much power in AAA when that's what we need up here?
Yeah.
You get them both up, they perform to basically your wildest imagination through the first couple, series that they're up, and then they both go to the bench. I just can't understand that. And it kind of goes back to the point that Kinner was saying when Tyler Stevenson was coming back. And I think as we watch them play, I'm moving closer and closer to where Kinner stood on that. We don't have a good enough lineup to risk it with, guys that we're trying to get out of slumps. We got to play the bats who can hit.
Yeah.
And at some point, those guys show you who they are rather than who you want them to be. And we got to get them in the lineup.
Fetters brings up a point, it's a lefty today. Well, it didn't matter last night against a righty when Santiago Espinal
that's what I
went
mean.
up. So it makes no sense. I mean,
If you're gonna do splits, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it 100% of the time, or it's not gonna work. You can't pick and choose when to platoon and when to do splits. It seems like that's what we're doing.
Doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And again, I trust Terry Francona. It's not. I'm going to make this very clear. I don't blame Terry Francona at all for what has happened this season.
Correct.
Not even a little bit.
Are you guys surprised at the venom that was just erupted on Terry Francona last night? Are you surprised by that, especially the timing of which we just talked to Marty yesterday, and Marty said he feels like that because you go and you make a home run hire at manager and Terry Francona in the offseason, he's almost viewed as the savior. And as Marty said earlier, he's not a miracle worker. So it seems like when losses like last night happen, and those same types of losses happen with David Bell, no, we can't sit there and say that they didn't. But, obviously Terry Francona has held to a higher standard, and we expect more from a Terry Francona-led team, fair or not. You guys already answered it, but no, you guys are not surprised by the venom that was spewed his direction last night.
They ran David Bell out of town.
David Bell didn't have an active starting pitcher for a month. Not one. He had Nick Martinez, who last year was not a starting pitcher. He was a reliever. That was it. That's who he had for a month. He started and had to start Bubba Thompson, Levi Jordan, Dom Smith. Like that was the lineup last
for
year.
Austin Slater.
And it was David Bell's fault last season. That's whose fault it was. It wasn't anybody else's. It was David Bell was the reason that the Reds couldn't win games last year when they started players who nobody's ever heard of. So no, I'm not shocked that the fan base is starting to turn on Terry Francona. I'm surprised it took him this long. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what Terry Francona is able to do. I don't blame him at all for this season. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, and again, last night, so what did you guys make of his explanation for not, for having Espinal hit there? I mean, obviously, I think it was Charlie Goldsmith. I don't think we're allowed to play the clip, but it was Charlie Goldsmith, who's a regular on the show, basically asked him why did they choose to stick with Espinal in that spot versus going to, obviously, a Will Benson or someone else. And Francona kind of looked at him a little crazy, like, who the heck are you to question me? But to his credit, he did calm down a little bit and didn't give as aggressive as a response back as where I thought it was trending. But basically said, too, he wanted to kind of continue to give Lux a little bit of rest, who obviously is battling an injury. And if you pinch hit in that situation, you have to put him out there and put him at third or whatever. They just don't have the depth to be able to make some of those moves. Where were you guys at with that explanation from Terry Francona?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna blame defensive alignment when we got guys playing positions they've never played before in general, Austin Wynns is playing first base, Reese Hines is getting work at first base. We got Gavin Lux and Santiago Espinal playing left and right field. This team is made up of players playing in wrong positions. That's how they've been able to at least survive up until this point. So no, I do not buy his answer. He was trying to claw something out. If they're hurt, they're hurt, and that's a different story. But if they're able to play, and it's a right-handed pitcher in the last inning of the game, and also it was the ninth inning. So what are we doing? I mean, also,
Gavin Lux played more third base coming into this year than left field.
Yeah,
he's been playing left field every day.
Yeah, I mean it was a horrible answer. It was a horrible response, but he's just trying to defend his actions. So.
I didn't think it was that. I think it was less about him playing at third and more about keeping him out there. I don't think he wanted to pinch hit him there and then have to keep him out there. I think it was more about not wanting him to have to play any extended time out there. That was supposed to be an off time for a reason because he was trying to work this in.
Kinner was the ninth inning. If he ties the game, then you can do whatever you want. But it was the most likely outcome is they lose. So you're banking on the decision that you had to not put your good player in is because you think he's going to tie it and he has to play? That makes no sense.
It does make sense. He doesn't want him out there defensively. Like, people don't have to like the answer, but I understand. At least to say he was just making up an answer, I disagree. That was his answer. People don't have to like it, but I didn't think it was a made-up answer. I think that was his reasoning, whether we liked it or not. I'm not, like, overly defending it here, but I feel like it was an explanation, whether we liked it or not. But I don't think it was, like, a made-up.
If he's going with the response that he's injured, then yeah, I 100%. I'll support that decision. That's fine. Fine by me. I don't care. Like, if he's hurt, he's hurt. You can't play a guy who's hurt. Will Benson should have seen an at-bat. You're losing in the 9th inning. Play the guy so you can tie the game. If your biggest fear is one of these two guys is going to tie the game and you get to maybe win, then we're talking about something else here. I mean, that would be crazy. I don't think that's what he meant. I just think if he's hurt, just say he's hurt and we'll move on and we'll all be happy. And by happy, I mean we're not happy.
All right, we'll step away for a few moments. We'll pick up with this when we come back. We're off the bench when we return. All right, and we are back off the bench. Guys, I'm not going to lie. I couldn't stop watching the Casey clip from yesterday when he just that's my favorite Casey clip ever. Like, and there's a lot of good Casey ones, but that's all I could think about. So, Jake, when I saw you, when the camera panned over to you earlier, that's all I could think about was Casey sitting there with that same backdrop with the hands out like, hey, Marty, Casey here. But
That was good.
Nonetheless, we welcome you guys back again. Justin, Pearl, Elliot, and Jacob all hanging out with you here today on a Wednesday. The Reds looking to close out the Pirates series with a series win later this afternoon. We're hoping that they were able to pull it out. Last night, again, we talked about the amount of 1-0 losses that they've had on the season, and it is really wild when you truly think about it. How many times? I mean, it's another game where we're not talking about another great pitching performance, and technically we did. We highlighted the continued success of Nick Martinez as of late. But man, this rotation, they're throwing out some gems, man. They're busting their ass. The bullpen's coming in and sustaining the pitching success as well. To not be able to even contribute a run, we could crack the mic today and complain about losing in extras, and that's a whole other discussion for later on when that stuff happens too, which they're not good in extra innings as we've discussed. But the offense isn't even giving them chances to win these games. I know that's what Trace and Nick were talking about last night. Like, whether it's 4 or 5, wherever the total is of 1-0 losses, two more of those. If you win 2 of those, that's a big difference in the vibe of where we're at with this team right now. Those are demoralizing. If the Reds would have just been shut out 6-0 last night, it would have ticked me off. But I do think the 1-0 losses pissed me off more than any other kind of loss. They could have been blown out. You're going to get blown out at some point throughout the season. There's just off nights. It's going to happen. They're going to give up double-digit runs and probably be shut out or only put up a run. That wouldn't have pissed me off as much as what we saw last night. 1-0 losses anger me more than any other kind of loss, and I think those are the frustrating ones to swallow at the end of the day.
I think Reed came in here the other day and he was talking about, like, when you lose games, some fans put a little bit more weight into how they look, right? I remember one of my first takes on this show was I thought the Bengals didn't look great during their 10-game winning streak a couple years ago.
Where they covered every game.
Yeah, and I think like there is a point that like fans overreact to losing 1-0. Like losing 1-0 8 times through 50 games is, I mean, it's horrible. But if you were able to win series during this stretch, you don't talk about it. Like if the Reds win this series, getting shut out 1-0 yesterday, I don't care. I don't care. The difference is they lose 1-0 and lose every single series they play.
Right.
That's you're combining both, and that's the difference. The Reds can lose 1-0 once a series for the rest of the year. If they win every series, I don't give a damn. I don't. So the 1-0 thing, is it frustrating? Sure. I think it tells a larger story about where this offense is right now, unable to get on base at all. But it doesn't bother me as much because it's just like it bothers us more because of how they're losing everything else.
Right.
Yeah, and again, the Reds are going for the series win today against the Pirates, and that's what we'll turn our attention to. We're going to wrap up the Reds with this segment. We'll look over to Joe Burrow and the Bengals coming up here around the corner. Thoughts on this game? Again, we talked about the 1-0 losses, how those continue to pile up, but the other problem that continues to plague this team is their inability to win game threes, and for them to win this series and for them to take any kind of momentum into the Cubs series, which we've all agreed is a huge series this weekend. They have to win today. It sounds so silly saying that the Pirates game is a must-win today as we sit here past the midpoint of May, but I am putting it in that category. Like, I do think as big as what this Cubs series is going to be this weekend, it's going to take a significant step back if you drop 2 or 3 against the Pirates. Yes, you did sweep the Guards, but if 2 of your last 3 series are losing a series to the stupid White Sox and the Pirates, I don't care that you swept the Guardians anymore.
Right.
This series is a must-win, in my opinion, heading into this Cubs series this weekend.
Yeah, and Singer versus Andrew Heaney is not exactly the matchup you want for a must-win. So I know all the focus in Pittsburgh is certainly on Paul Skeens, but Andrew Heaney is a phenomenal pitcher and someone who's certainly in the mix for the NL Cy Young, at least betting odds-wise, and he's been really, really good this year. And we know that, I think Elliot tweeted something about it last night, pitchers with about a 5 ERA usually dominate the Reds lineup. Well, Haney's down around a 3. So we'll see what happens today. But with that, crop of players, it's certainly 9 guys that are on the Reds roster in the lineup today. You can't argue that. But I don't know if any of them are very good. So we'll see what happens. But man, you really have to win game 3, or we might have our 3rd bottom out of the season.
Yeah, just win. You just got to win. All this stuff is irrelevant if you don't win games, win series, and the Reds have been unable to do that so far on a consistent basis. They have, out of their 5 series wins, 3 of them have been sweeps, to their credit, and obviously a sweep is going to weigh more than just a regular series win. So they've been able to do that, which is keeping them afloat right now, but you're not going to be able to sweep everybody. I don't expect you to sweep everybody. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're not good. They don't have pretty much anybody offensive. I mean, I don't want to say anybody. They have 2 offensive players. Outside of that, they've got nothing else, and they've got Paul Skeens every 5th day. So they've got like 1 out of 5 chances to win baseball games.
And he goes 8 innings of
correct.
No-run baseball. I think he's 2-5.
Yeah, I mean, he goes complete games and he still loses. So I'm not concerned about it. If the Reds win today, great. If they lose today, it is what it is. We know who they are. You don't go through the most recent stretch of the season and expect something to change drastically because you sweep the Cleveland Guardians at home. It just doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but I hope the Reds moving forward are able to take strides and are able to do the little things right. Hopefully, are able to come back in a game I watch a little bit of the Chicago Cubs play baseball this year. They've come back from like 5 runs in the 7th inning every game, and they win. The Reds don't do that. They don't have any. They don't fight adversity. They're not able to come back from that. So, who knows? I wish that things were different, but as of right now, this is what they are.
I think if we lose today, you have to formally apologize to the Pirates.
Yeah, No. If they win 1-0, I'll apologize.
Not that the Pirates are good.
Yeah.
Just that we may be on their level.
Yeah.
Don't let
Big day. It's a big day.
Don't let Reed hear that. Don't let Reed hear
Reed
that.
might be a bigger Pirates fan than he is a Cubs fan.
You never know
Close.
with him. You never know. So with that, by the way, the Reds, like, I feel like offensively, they're just they're bullies. They only pick on the little guy. They only beat up on the little guy. How is this a team that can erupt for the big run games like we've seen from time to time? And quite often, I mean, it's quite often we see there's about once a series, every other series, where they erupt for 7 or more runs in a game and then just fall off. How is that? I mean, like, for instance, the Pirates, we're talking about 24, 25 straight games. I know we discussed it yesterday, where they haven't scored 4 or more runs, since mid-April or whatever. Like, they're bad offensively and they stay bad offensively. They don't have off days where they're good offensively. The Reds do. Why is that? Why is this a team that all of a sudden for one day every 4 days can figure out how to hit a baseball, but those other days they just mentally disappear? It doesn't make any sense. I've never seen anything like it to this degree.
For the first month of the season, I was scratching my head about the shutouts. And I was like, how does this keep happening? And now looking back, I'm 10 times more shocked by what you just said. The times that we've been able to score 12, 14, 24 runs. I don't know where that came from. I mean, these guys are all hitting $160, $180, 210. How did we get 24 runs in a game? It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I don't know that I have an explanation for you, Kenner. That's probably one of the most confusing things of the entire season, how this Reds offense that I've watched for damn near 50 games so far this year, you look at the numbers and they're top 15. I cannot wrap my head around it. I'm out on saying they're inconsistent. I'm out on saying they are consistent, and it's just a roller coaster that we signed up for. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they can figure out how to do it a few more times.
I think that what it is the truth of this team is there is some talent there. And that's why we get more and more frustrated with how they lose games, because we see the vision. We see what this team is supposed to look like, and at times they play like it. We've seen flashes of Elly De La Cruz, of Noelvi Marte, of Will Benson, of Spencer Steer. We've seen those flashes of Matt McClain, and we think those flashes are permanent. It's just sometimes they aren't. Sometimes you take a picture and that's all you got. And I want things to be different. I wish they were. I just don't feel that when you look at this team from top down, it's a team that's good enough to make the postseason. It's good enough to win 90 games. I don't think they're close. And then you say, all right, what do they have to do to be closer? And it's just you have to bring in more free agents. You have to bring in the outfield bat. You have to make sure the lineup's good enough. And outside of, we brought in Austin Hayes and Gavin Lux. You think that's enough if the core plays, but the core's not playing well. So it all comes down to, can the guys that you drafted be able to hit a baseball consistently? And that's the fundamental issue with this entire roster construction, is that we're banking on guys that we've seen play well for like 30-game stretches and not much else. I love Matt McClain, but he's been woeful. I mean, he's hitting 176, 280 OBP. It's just not good. Spencer Steer's been terrible from the start of this season, and you go down the line.
Since about the midway point of last year.
I don't know why it took so long to bring Will Benson and Reese Hines up. We talk about those flashes and those spurts from guys that are on this team. You kept, and this is, again, I hate to keep punching down, but you kept Jacob Hurtubise and Blake Dunn on this roster for nearly 50 games. They haven't showed anything at any level. And let me rephrase. They haven't showed anything since coming up to the Reds. Last year or this year. They've showed nothing. So I don't know why they got the benefit of the doubt over guys who had those flashes. And the other issue, and the final one, is they don't stay healthy. They're not built to withstand injury concerns. They can't do it. Jeimer Candelaria, whether or not it's real or not, he's hurt. Spencer Steer, hurt. Noelvi Marte, hurt. And you go down the lineup. Austin Hayes missed time. Gavin Lux, I'm concerned about his injury because Tito Francona says that he's dealing with an injury. Tyler Stevenson misses time. They have a lot of injury concerns for a team that's not built to withstand them having injury concerns.
Right.
So all of that coming together to make a lineup that's just not, it's just not consistent enough. It's not good enough. I wish it was, but it's not.
All right, as we wrap up our conversation on the Reds, Pearl, we'll start with you. The Reds, getting a win today. They're going to do something rare. They're going to win a Game 3 today to take some momentum into the Cubs series on Friday. Reds, Pirates, Game 3. Reds come out on top?
God, I hope, because I don't have a lot of hope for the Cubs series if they don't carry momentum into this, if they drop this game. The lineup's a little better than yesterday, so I'll be optimistic. We'll take it.
Oh, optimism. Is it contagious back in the Hamilton studio? Is it contagious, Jake? Are you feeling optimistic here today?
Oh.
Do it again.
Ooh.
Did it again. I'll take Pirates, and I'll take them 1-0.
Oh, no.
I'll take the Pirates 7-6.
They have not. You sure you want to do that? They have not scored more than 4 runs since April 22nd.
I'll take the Pirates 2-0.
Good score.
I'm being optimistic because normally Reds like to score for Singer, so.
Yeah, that's true.
do.
That is true. That
They
is
do.
true. That is
They
true.
do, but they haven't won a rubber match in 2 years.
I know. Just the track record with Singer, I'm like, okay, maybe.
Brady Singer in his last, 3 games, 3 earned runs in 5 innings, 7 earned runs in 2 innings, 4 earned runs in 6 innings.
I take it back. The Pirates are scoring 7. I'm going back to the original guess.
Oh, my God.
So one more time, Jake, you have 2-0 Pirates, right?
No,
Or do you-
7-3. I'm going back to 7-3. 7-3
All right,
Pirates.
so 7-3 Pirates, 1-0 Pirates for Elliot. And Pearl, what's your score prediction then?
4-2.
4-2 Reds.
4-2 Reds. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna go. I desperately, from a show host perspective, from a for content purposes, desperately need this Reds team to win today. I'm desperate. They have to win today, guys. Like, I want to talk about, my goodness, a humongous series with the Cubs. Hunter Green coming back Friday night, City Connect jerseys, Firework Friday, all that fun stuff. That all just takes a step back if you've dropped 2 of your last 3 series against 2 of the worst teams in baseball. That takes a major blow. I'm going to say 5-2 Reds. I'll go 5-2 Reds. In fact, I'm gonna be a little gutsy here. I'm going to say 2 runs are put up in the first inning by your Cincinnati Reds.
Ooh, wow.
Yes,
All right.
We
The
do
last time
score
I was
early when
aggressive-
we do score.
That's right.
What?
So there you go,
how much do you think this win-loss today affects bodies in Great American Ballpark this weekend for the
Oh,
Cubs
it's
series?
big.
I don't think
It
does
won't.
at all.
I don't think it does either.
Lots of Cubs fans. Lots of Cubs fans.
Cubs-
Oh, everybody comes out for Cubs, but
Well, no, it's just 35,000
I was
Cubs
gonna say,
fans.
yeah.
There's
No,
no
yeah.
Reds. There's
no, everybody.
there's no Reds
Chicago
fans.
comes for sure.
There's no Reds
and they
fans.
chirp and they're annoying.
It's miserable. Shout out Reed.
Yep. Shout out Reed. There's that. All right. Good
Mason.
stuff. We'll switch over. We'll switch over to the Cincinnati Bengals when we come back. Joe Burrow finally addressed the media yesterday. Was supposed to address the media last week. We thought it had something to do with the Trey Hendrickson drama that really picked up last week, but finally addressed the media yesterday. Interesting takeaways from some of the comments he made. We'll get to all of that when we come back. More Off the Bench when we return. last week, Jay Morrison covers the Cincinnati Bengals. He was coming on to recap the schedule reveal and or to preview the schedule reveal, and was supposed to kind of recap a Joe Burrow presser from the day before, but the Joe Burrow press conference last week got pushed back to this week, and a lot of speculation as to why that was. Some thought it was because, well, it was the flooding of drama that kind of came out from the camp of Trey Hendrickson as he's continuing to pursue an extension with the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. But regardless of what the reason was, Joe Burrow did finally address the media yesterday. And I know we were watching some of it back in the studio, and I kind of made the joke, how long before you get the first Trey Hendrickson question? Guys, I was a little shocked. It was a good 4 or 5 minutes into the presser before Trey Hendrickson was even mentioned.
No,
even
I was
the media.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be the crux of yesterday's press conference, but it seemed like it was more overarching. A lot of questions about his health, about what he's focused on this offseason. So, yeah, it seemed like the media at least played nice with him for a little bit.
I imagine they're like, why would I waste my question on that? It's like we're going to get the most basic, generic, written out response that I'm sure somebody in the front office gave him beforehand. It's what did he? I mean, we'll play the clip, but it's like, I mean, it's the most cookie cutter answer of all time. So I imagine most reporters knew that was going to be the case. So let's ask him something else.
Well, I was interested to see, like if you look at the tone of how Joe Burrow was pressuring the front office to get the deals done for Jamar and T versus the tone of pressuring the front, and we disagree on this. I know we talked about it last week. I was just curious to kind of hear the tone of Burrow. Do you sense that urgency? And they're like, is there urgency on Burrow's behalf of, okay, this team needs to get this done. I'm not playing around. I need Trey Hendrickson on this team. I need him out there. I need him to be, leading this defense. I was just curious to see what the tone was going to be as far as that goes. But yes, he was the two-parter in this clip here. The first was just, what does it say about the organization that they did get those deals done with Jamar and T. Higgins? And there was a follow-up about the ongoing negotiations and drama with Trey Hendrickson. Here's the clip, Joe Burrow in the press conference yesterday afternoon.
I just think it says they're invested in winning. I think they want to reward guys that they draft that come in and play great. I think that's a recipe for success.
What's your thoughts on kind of the Trey situation of that when Thomas the last one to get done? What are your thoughts on kind of that being still the last outstanding deal that potentially get done?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. You guys all know how I feel about Trey. He's a great player. I love Trey as a guy. He goes out and plays well every single Sunday. He's very productive. He's a guy that deserves to get paid and get paid what he wants and what the market is. So, like I said, we'll see what happens with that. But I love Trey and hope he's with us.
Again, that was Joe Burrow yesterday. Let's start with the Trey Hendrickson response right there. Was that the cookie cutter response that you were expecting? I don't think there was anything hard hitting in there. But we'll start with you, Elliot. You said you were expecting a cookie cutter response. Was that cookie cutter in your opinion?
He said he wants him to get paid, so I guess that goes outside the norm. But I don't think really. I think he was defending his guy because he has to. There's no other answer he can have in that situation. He can't be like, I'm 100% with the organization and to hell with Trey Hendrickson. He can't say that. He also can't say, Trey Hendrickson's my guy. I support him over the organization. I'm a Trey Hendrickson guy, not a Bengals guy. Can't say that. I think it was always towing the middle of the line. He said he wants him to get paid, which is I think the most generic answer you can have, but. Yeah, I think that was predetermined. I think he had that exact response written down for a week.
For sure. Yeah, there's no question about it. And I don't really know what the expectation is, like you said. I mean, he has to dance that line. And I don't think the Trey Hendrickson situation or how Joe Burrow's handling it should overshadow how much change he's inflicted in the Bengals front office already this offseason. And I think part of that could be why he doesn't push quite as hard for this at this point in time. I think, if Jamar had been taken care of last year and T had been spread out a little bit more, then maybe there is a little bit more aggression to get Trey Hendrickson done. But he was fighting such an uphill battle to get those other guys extended, and he did. He got Jamar extended. He got T extended. He got Mike Gesicki extended. All those offensive weapons. And we can argue about whether they should have spent that money, but clearly Joe Burrow prioritized having those weapons, making his life easy, and that is going to hurt the defense. So Yeah, he obviously doesn't value Trey Hendrickson to the point where he values those other two, though he does say that he should be at the market value. And I think we all relatively agree with that. He's underpaid this season, and if he wanted to take a 1 or 2 year extension to pay him market value, I think it would already be done by now. So he's fighting for something that he's never going to get, and I think that's why it's falling down to the back burner. Trey Hendrickson and his camp keep saying the Bengals front office won't negotiate, but it doesn't seem like they're willing to budge either. So when neither side will negotiate, I don't really know what else there is to ask. I think the Trey Hendrickson ship has sailed. There's not going to be a trade between the Bengals or any other team sending Trey Hendrickson out of here. He's either going to play on $16 million or he'll play on 2 years at $30 million, and then he'll leave Cincinnati. I think those are the only two options.
Yeah, I went back and I listened to when Joe was doing the media tour at Super Bowl Media Row. I sensed more urgency. I sensed more aggressiveness, and not aggressiveness in a bad way, but just more. He was more stern. You could tell the importance of, hey, this needs to get done. Jamar and T need to get done. He was very stern when it came to that. And with the Hendrickson thing yesterday, it was, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I just didn't get that same urgency vibe. I think obviously he wants him in Cincinnati. He wants him to be there. But if he's not, I don't think that's going to be one of those, did the front office upset Joe Burrow by not getting a deal done with Trey Hendrickson? And I guess my only pushback on that is Joe Burrow, in my opinion, needs to have the same urgency in the front office getting deals done on the defensive side of the ball and not just on the offensive side of the ball. Because, look, we saw last year how good they were offensively with Jamar and T, and he now has them moving forward. But you're going to run in place if you don't put that same pressure on the front office to meet that urgency on the defensive side of the ball. And that's just my big takeaway from kind of what I noticed. The lack of urgency and we'll see how it goes, vastly different than what we saw at Super Bowl Media Row when it came to Jamar and T.
And I think part of that is because it's what you know versus what you don't, right? And we know with Jamar and T and Gesicki on the Bengals offense that the Bengals offense is, if not number 1, number 2 or 3 in the league. And we know the Bengals defense with Trey Hendrickson having a career year is 27th. So which one are you going to have, a little bit more focus on maintaining the current personnel? I think I would go for the one that's towards the top of the league as opposed to the one towards the bottom. And maybe the other 31 franchises don't have to pick. Maybe the other 31 franchises get all 3. We don't. And I think we've kind of been saying that from the start, is that we're not going to get that. And a lot of us guessed that odd man out would be T. Higgins because he was the wide receiver 2, and those other 2, obviously wide receiver 1 in Jamar Chase, then edge 1 in Trey Hendrickson, 2 of the most important positions in football outside of quarterbacks. So I was under the assumption that those 2 contracts would get done before T. Higgins. Obviously, that's not the case, and I think that's because of the pressure both Joe and Jamar put on the front office in terms of how much of a need T. Higgins was. And they prioritized that over the defensive star, and that defensive star is about 5 years older than T. Higgins, and I think that's a big part of this as well. If Trey Hendrickson was 25, ending his rookie deal, putting up 17.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons, I fully expect that the Bengals would have had it done, and I would have a very different tune the fact that we're in a holdout situation right now. But he's not. He's 30. He's going into his age 31 season. He's played back-to-back years better than he's ever played in his career. He's an average run defender who's a great pass rusher. That's not something I'm putting $30+ million behind in age 33 and 34 seasons. It's just not.
Can't do it. You just can't do it. I understand what Kinner's saying too. It's the defensive side of the football, obviously an issue. They were woeful last season. It's just when you pay $30 million to a guy who led the defense in being the worst defense. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's other holes you can fill with that money, in my opinion. I think there's more you can do than just pay Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson can lead the league in sacks 4 straight years in a row, and the Bengals defense can still be ranked 25th in the league. That's in my opinion, that's not a great place to be. On top of the fact that the Bengals don't pay these players. It's been an organizational issue for God knows how long. So it's not at the top of my list. I think the longer this is played out, the more annoyed I've personally gotten with it. Yeah. And it makes me want to re-sign makes me want to sign Trey even less. As for Joe Burrow, the lack of urgency for it, I think it was him picking his spot. He picked his spot. He wanted offense. He wanted the offense fixed. He got it. He wanted what he could get, And when they gave him Mike Gesicki and the two best wide receivers in the league, he's like, you know what? That's probably that's what I asked for. And I'm not going to go ask and beg for Trey Hendrickson when the team gave me that. So that's where I imagine he's coming from. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I want this to end so bad. Just end it. Either say you're going to play, pay him $30 million for 2 years, do whatever you got to do for this year, and just move on. I just want it over with.
It was reported that the Bengals offered Trey Hendrickson around $28 million on a 1 and 2 year extension, and his camp declined, saying that they aren't interested in anything below 30 and they're focused on a long-term deal. If that's the case, he's either playing on 16 or he's not playing at all.
Yeah.
If he is locked in on 3-4 years and the Bengals are not going to budge on the 1 or 2, I think he's either playing on 16 or he's sitting out. And I think those are the options he has. I don't think he has another option.
And he's not sitting.
Let me ask you.
Correct.
Can I ask real quick? Because I did see that number of the Bengals were willing to pay up to 28. I didn't read the full article. Are they in regards to like an extension of multiple years at 28, or was it they're willing to offer him 28 for this upcoming season and he's still declining it? What did you guys see? Are the Bengals still willing to give him a multiple year extension at 28? Is that what that
this
article
year
said?
And next year, potentially. So it would be a pseudo 1 year extension, 2 year contract. None of this was verified from a Bengals source. It was a report that $28 million was the number that they were around. There were not contract details linked to it, but it was reported that the holdup was 1 and 2 years versus 3 and 4 from Trey Hendrickson's camp. So I'm not interested at all in a 3 or 4 year deal. And if he's going to turn down $28 to $30 million to play this season, then I'm not interested in working with him to get him to 33 or 34. You can play on your 16, or you can cost yourself about 17 in fines and then go play somewhere else next year.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to step away for a few moments. There's one more takeaway from that. Joe Burrow started that clip with saying he believes the Cincinnati Bengals are invested in winning. I saw some comments on social media yesterday that some fans disagree with that. I'm curious your guys' thoughts. Are the Bengals truly invested into winning? We'll discuss that when we come back. More Off the Bench next. There's times on this show where I always feel like my take is really not going to mesh with everyone else's take on this, so I always have to give out a disclaimer between segments just in case. I am curious your guys' take on this. Joe Burrow, in the very first part of the clip that we shared last segment, was asked, I believe, again, it's hard to hear. I don't know why they don't have mics for the media there, but like it was
insane. It's insane.
But it was obviously responding to, I'm assuming, about Jamar and T getting those deals done. But here's Joe Burrow in the first part of the clip that we just shared.
I just think it says they're invested in winning. I think they want to reward guys that they draft that come in and play great. I think that's a recipe for success.
What's your thoughts on
So I agree with Joe Burrow. That is the recipe to success. And to be honest, it always seems like the Bengals are more willing to fork over money for guys that they've drafted, developed, and invested time into versus spending a ton of money in free agency, which that's a conversation for later. But, Joe Burrow, when he says that, I think what it says is that this team is invested in winning. My only pushback on that is I feel like if the team was truly invested in winning, if they truly valued winning as the number one priority, I feel Joe Burrow wouldn't have felt the need to have to go on that Super Bowl media tour. I feel like it shouldn't take these constant holdouts and these constant the resistance that's constantly being pushed out there. That's my pushback. Jake, earlier you said you felt like Joe Burrow has changed the way the front office does things. I don't. I feel like when this Joe Burrow era is done and these same people are in place, I'm assuming Mike Brown won't be there, but if it's still operated the same exact way, I don't think that this front office has changed its ways. I don't think that they're truly ever going to be the aggressors and oh, you know what? We have a new way of thinking. We're gladly going to do this now moving forward. I felt like they had a gun to their head when it came to getting some of these deals done. I just don't get the same vibe that you guys do, that this team has turned the corner, that they are investing into winning, and that they truly value that as the number one priority. I didn't get the sense. It took Joe Burrow having to put public pressure on the front office, almost making his team look bad. Not his fault. That's their fault.
Yeah.
But I do feel like by him having to do that, that doesn't scream to me that this team is willing and investing into winning when he had to not blackmail them, but really put the pressure on them to actually do it. If Joe Burrow felt like they were truly invested into winning, he wouldn't have had to have done that in the first place. I guess that's my only pushback on that. I know he's happy those deals got done. You guys are happy. You should be. Oh, I am too. My team now. My team. I'd slightly disagree with him. I don't know if this team truly prioritizes winning, because if they did, they wouldn't have had to be begged to get these deals done, in my opinion.
In February, this team didn't prioritize winning. And that's why we were talking about there's no way that they're going to extend Jamar and T. Higgins. And then Joe Burrow put a gun to their head and said, push is coming to shove. And we're competitors now. We're not the same old Bengals, and you're going to have to commit to winning. And in the months since then, they have. They extended the guys that they should. We can have the discussion about Trey Hendrickson, but I think they've handled that the way a team that cares about winning handles that. You don't just throw out money because a guy wants it and extend him into his mid-30s when you're already going to be cash-strapped in those years. So I think they've handled that very well. Obviously, getting Jamar and T done to a point that we've never seen the Bengals do before in terms of guaranteeing money into the next few years. It was the biggest wide receiver 2 contract in the history of the NFL, so that would be breaking organizational norms for any team if they were to extend T. Higgins to that number. So I think over this offseason, we have seen organizational change. He said right there, we've prioritized extending the players we drafted. What was the main talking point over the last 3 or 4 years when it comes to extensions? We haven't extended the players we drafted. We let Jesse Bates go after turning into an all-pro talent that we took in the 3rd round. Now we're not having that conversation with Jamar and T. Higgins. And hopefully, when Amarius Mims gets to a point where he's an all-pro tackle in 3 or 4 years, we're going to extend him because we have prioritized these guys we took in the draft, and we're going to keep them in Cincinnati. I think there's been a big shift in the last few months. And does that go away when Joe Burrow's gone? To your point that when this core leaves and the same owners are there, do they go back to their old form? Absolutely. I fully believe that. This isn't going to be some kind of permanent change. It might not even last Joe Burrow's entire career. But I do think it's going to last at least as long as we're competitive. And at least as long as he's putting up MVP numbers and film, we're going to have a front office that's going to put more behind this team than we've ever seen before. And I know, you said there that Burrow did something we don't see a lot of other teams do, and it was basically call out your front office in the media over Super Bowl week. We had a number 1 pick quarterback call out the front office pretty publicly before. And they didn't do anything when Carson Palmer asked for things. So the fact that our star quarterback goes out and asks for roster changes and the front office listens, I think that alone is a pretty monumental change.
Yeah, I mean, I don't write too much in these press conferences they do. I really don't get anything out of it. These answers are employees talking about the employers and trying to walk lines. He's getting paid $50 million by the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to say what he needs to say to continue the good graces and be with the Bengals and going forward for his career. I don't know how long that career is going to be here, but for however long it's going to be, there has to be some sort of mutual respect. He can't come out there and say the Bengals don't care about winning. He can't do that. But to Kinner's point, Do I think it's kind of a load of BS? Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, you can't tell me in the past 15 years that they've lived up to, paying guys they've drafted. No. This is a new phenomenon, and to Kinner's quote, yeah, it's because they were pinned up against in the corner over there, and it's like they had no choice. They had one option in that scenario, and that was to give Joe Burrow what he wanted, or this was going to be a bigger problem than they've probably ever had, and that's a disgruntled star quarterback while the entire world laughs at you.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I mean, this is just if I were the Bengals front office, if I were Mike Brown, if I were Katie Blackburn, I'd look at Joe Burrow and I'd say, okay, you won this one, and I'd move on. I don't think this is going to be prolonged organizational change. I think this is the Joe Burrow change, and while he's here, you're going to see them do what he wants, and no more, no less than that. He's not going to get everything he wanted. It's not Christmas, you're not going to get every single thing on your wish list. But you're going to get pretty close to, I imagine, what you want because Joe Burrow has the power. If Joe Burrow leaves this organization, no disrespect, but the Bengals are nothing. I mean, Correct. The Bengals go from being a Super Bowl contender, a Super Bowl appearing team, a franchise that's up and up with a lot of fans and everybody likes the colors, and then it becomes, no disrespect, but they become the Cleveland Browns real quick. And it goes right back down in the rabbit hole where you're the Jaguars or you're the Jets. And it's just you're not a franchise that's held to a higher standard. I don't know if the Bengals should be held to a higher standard. I'd like to think they should be when you have that quarterback. All those teams I just mentioned, if they had the quarterback, they wouldn't be talked down to.
Jags think they do.
Jaguars certainly do think they do. But outside of that one, this is a quarterback-driven league. A quarterback's as high as possible when we talk about front office and coaching. He's a good quarterback like Joe or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. All these guys have a lot of say in how the organization operates. I don't think the Bengals are changing for the future. They're just changing right now.
And that's fair. And like I said, the only pushback on all that I had is I don't think the front office has changed. I think, Elliot, you kind of slightly touched on it. I think they paid guys because they absolutely had to. Like they had to, and because of worrying about upsetting Joe Burrow. But to me, it's like in a marriage. If your wife has to beg you to take you on dates, if your wife has to beg you to buy her nice things and to help out around the house and to be a good husband, how committed to that marriage are you actually? And I guess that's how I viewed this particular situation.
Don't twist it. The Bengals hate being contenders. They hate it. Mike Brown and the Brown family would so much rather go 9-8 every year and miss the playoffs or lose in the first round. There was a quote from Mike Brown to David Fulcher's family flying back from the second Super Bowl where he said, "This is too expensive. We can't do this again." Talking about paying for the tickets for the family members and the hotels for the Bengals players when they lost to the 49ers for the second time. The Bengals front office hates being competitors. They hate it. So they're just as mad as you are, Kenner.
See, 6 months ago, this would have been a big fight. Stuff would have been thrown around, Cuss. I would have dropped the F-bomb 4 times in a 5-minute segment. We've grown as a show. It's great stuff right there as far as that is concerned. Elliot, I'm with you. That press conference yesterday, it was a whole lot of nothing. I mean,
I got
Joe Burrow's
nothing from it.
He's a veteran in the league now. He knows.
Yeah.
I think he's very calculated on what he says, and I think, like when I watch a Joe Burrow press conference, if I watch him do interviews just out and about when he's socially interacting with people, he talks much faster, has a faster cadence. You could tell he's just literally thinking about every word that comes out of his mouth because he knows everything that comes out of his mouth is going to be not twisted, but it's going to get a reaction. Is there anything at all that you guys pulled from that yesterday? Jake, was there anything else topic-wise as far as that goes?
I got that.
Elliot?
It seemed like he was, I mean, for what it's worth, I know like it wasn't like a big, party. But for what it looked like for me, the vibes I got from him standing there, he looked to be happy. He looked to be healthy. He said as much. He said he's coming into this season with no injury concerns. And that's the key. I mean, if Joe Burrow has a perfect preseason, then the Bengals are going to have obviously a shot at contending for a Super Bowl. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah.
And that's what I took away from yesterday, if anything. It's just the body language, how he looked. He was joking during it. I took away that he seemed to be happy. He didn't seem to be, angry or pushy like he was during the Super Bowl media tour. You know what I mean? He seemed to be different. He seemed to be a different quarterback from then, just because he seemed more comfortable. He seemed calm. And that's what I want to see. I want to see that poise. I want to see Joe Burrow looking forward to this season and looking forward to avenge what they lost last year.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing to me is how much in every single one of these press conferences, Joe Burrow has said time and time again that his focus this offseason is getting better and that he doesn't think he's even close to the best version of a quarterback that he can be. This is a guy last year who threw for 4,900 yards and 43 touchdowns, leading the NFL in both.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about. He thinks he can get better than last year. And I've said time and time again that if Joe Burrow has a better season this year than last year, those counting numbers will be lower. He'll throw less touchdowns, he'll throw less yards. But if Joe Burrow is a better quarterback in terms of accuracy, running the offense, controlling the defense, everything like that, this team can go wherever they want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if he has the ability to control the clock with a decent run game and a league average defense, who knows what happens with this team? David Shaw puts in the chat right away, had those stats because they threw 200 more times than any other QB in the league. That's also why they missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was able to do that when every defense they played week in and week out knew that they were going to throw the ball 80% of the time, it's just as impressive to me. So those numbers will be worse, but if he's a better quarterback.
He said that too yesterday in the press conference. He said those stats are going to fluctuate,
right?
Because of hopefully they're in positions where you can run the ball in the fourth quarter, a couple of times. So that's what I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for things to hopefully take a turn this year because they have to, and he knows they have to. Everybody in that organization knows they have to. You can't miss the playoffs 3 straight times with Joe Burrow. You cannot do it. It's impossible. So they have to take that, whatever it is, take it into this season, and hopefully they're going to be able to succeed. I want this Shamar Stewart thing done. I want Trey Hendrickson done.
Nice.
I want the noise down to a 0. I want quiet. I want complete and utter silence as we deal with this upcoming season. No more noise. No more distractions. And I'm sure I'm not going to get that. This Trey Hendrickson deal is going to go into week 3, and I have to sit here and complain about it every single week. But outside of that, we need to limit as much of these distractions as humanly possible. And I think for what it's worth, the Bengals have done a decent job at it. I don't know why they're not paying Shamar right now, but outside of that one in Trey, then I think they've done an okay job here.
Yeah, the only bad thing that Joe Burrow said in the press conference yesterday really made me upset was he said he wants an international game.
Oh,
he wants the Bengals to go overseas and play overseas. You filthy Brits, keep your hands off my American football. We fought a war 249 years ago to gain independence from your king and queen so we can play our game in our states. I don't want an international game, especially if it's a home game. If we go overseas, it better be an away game.
Yeah.
That's the worst, that they take home games.
It's less travel when he has all those fashion shows over there and stuff, that way.
Come on,
it's less
man.
travel back into the States, I'm just saying it's a little bit more convenient. Yeah, that was the one on my list too. I'm like, regardless of your fandom or not, it's like me as a fan, regardless of your team, I don't care about international games. In fact, if it takes a home game away from you, that does impact me. I don't want my team going to play internationally. In fact, when you talk about the fatigue factor and everything else that could exist with games like that, I'm not a fan of those at all. Joe Burrow said he's done a lot over the last year to help grow help support the growth of the league internationally. I would love to have a chance. I would love anyone to ask him why is that a priority? And again, nothing wrong with this. Had nothing to do with the Cincinnati Bengals. I just am very curious why that is such a priority to him or any of the players, like especially all the players. They do nothing but complain when they have to travel for these international games. But he has said he's made it a priority over the last year to help support that. I don't understand what the obsession is with growing the sport globally like that as far as that goes. I get why Goodell wants it. I get why they want it. From a player's perspective, I don't.
Yeah.
It's the same reason Goodell wants it. I mean, and as long as the TV deals get bigger and bigger and bigger, the cap gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then why stop at $60 million for a quarterback when you can get to 80? So I think they're all, kind of in the same boat with this whole thing, and it's, make the NFL as big as humanly possible, and we'll all benefit in the long run.
All right, fair enough. All right, speaking of money, Brock Purdy got a deal done. It was kind of brushed under the rug a little bit, but the 49ers, they were very good. They stood firm. They did not allow Brock Purdy to become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, but you still paid him $50+ million. And you start looking at the list of QBs making $50 million or more, you start questioning, who's the most overpaid quarterback? If you had to list 2 or 3, who are the most overpaid quarterbacks in the National Football League? Did the Niners make the right decision with Brock Purdy? We'll discuss when we come back. All right. So, look, the Cincinnati Bengals, they've spent a lot of money over the last couple of seasons. You think, obviously, the $55 million a year to Joe Burrow, the almost $40 million a year to Jamar Chase now, close to $30 million a year for T. Higgins. A lot of big contracts on that roster. How do teams navigate around big contracts when it comes to the salary cap? Well, it's a lot easier when you don't have an expensive quarterback, and that's one luxury that the 49ers have been able to take advantage of for quite some time. The fact that they can have, a Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and the fact that you can have a George Kittle, and the fact that you have all the money in your offensive line and all the money they have in their defense, that's very easy to do when you don't have to pay your quarterback. And the Niners are going to look a lot different moving forward because they finally had to, bite the bullet. They finally had to pay their quarterback. Brock Purdy making now $53.5 million per season moving forward. They finally got that extension done. I was actually curious to see if that was going to kind of get a little ugly and dicey and see if the Niners were just going to kind of, drag their feet a bit. But they got it done, full steam ahead for them. How will that impact the roster construction in years to come? That's for later on. But ultimately, to the Niners, when you look at Brock Purdy, it was like when the Bengals, it came time to pay Joe Burrow, the biggest haters in the world, me back in the day, you couldn't deny that the Bengals had to pay Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's worth every damn penny. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of doubters and concerns about Brock Purdy with the 49ers, who has been a very, very successful quarterback. The team has been very, very successful with him at quarterback. But there's still a lot of people who are hesitant on saying it was the right thing to give him $53.5 million. Would you have felt comfortable if the Bengals were the Niners and they were in the exact same situation? Would you have felt comfortable with your team paying him $53.5 million?
Look, one thing we know for sure is when you're really confident in a contract extension, you announce it at 5 p.m. on Friday. That's what I know about the NFL. Yeah, the Niners tweeted this one, or I guess not the Niners, but Rappaport and all the insiders tweeted that Brock Purdy was locked up, $53 million a year, and you can tell that the Niners are ecstatic about that by the time of the release. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. The only reason he's been able to be good and drive that offense is because of the stuff around him, and that's not a knock on Brock Purdy. You took him in the 7th round. The fact that he's been able to drive a great roster is incredibly impressive, and he deserves his flowers for that. That doesn't make him a top 10 quarterback in football. He's a game manager.
Yeah.
And you need those. Some of the best ones are Hall of Famers. But he's not at that level of processing and delivery and accuracy where he should be getting paid roughly the same amount of money as Jared Goff and Justin Herbert. That seems crazy to me. So I don't know how you justify giving him $53 million. And my immediate question is what you asked right there. How does it affect the rest of the roster? And it seems like their plan is just, it doesn't. Because they immediately gave Fred Warner the biggest linebacker contract in the history of the NFL. So the cap's not real for anyone but the Bengals, and the Niners are going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think this says more about the fear of not having a quarterback in this league than anything. Brock Purdy, despite whatever you believe in him, you say he's not good enough, he's still a decent quarterback. Like, Brock Purdy is a top 15 quarterback. He's a top half of the league quarterback. At least that's how the 49ers view him, and that's good enough to warrant $50+ million a year. He has to be paid, I imagine. He's the highest paid Mr. Irrelevant of all time. I can't imagine there's another one.
The only other one that ever made playoff appearances was Robbie Gould.
That's insane. So, yeah, I mean,
for one playoff games?
The 49ers did what they had to do. Do I think he's worth $53 million? No. Do I think Trevor Lawrence is worth $50+ million? Absolutely not. I don't. So it comes down to what's the quarterback market. How much can you withstand not having a quarterback? And the answer is you can't. In the year 2025, you cannot afford to not have a quarterback on your team, a good quarterback. So that's why teams are paying those numbers. That's why you have to do it, and it is what it is. If I were the Bengals, though, would I have wanted to pay Brock Purdy $53 million or whatever it was? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and look, and I've said before, and I think we've had this conversation many times, I think the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL is the Brock Purdy's of the world. Yeah. Andy Dalton, you go back to the prime Andy Dalton, that was the worst quarterback in the NFL that you could have, because that guy was good enough to win you a lot of games. That guy was good enough that you can count on to get you to the playoffs. You were going to contend for the division. There was nothing wrong with Andy Dalton until you got to the postseason. There was a ceiling with Andy Dalton, and there's a ceiling with a lot of these mid-tier quarterbacks. And you can't win in the NFL without, at the very least, a mid-tier quarterback. So when you have one and it's time to pay them, you can't just let them go, but you also can't invest into them the way you would a Joe Burrow or a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. Those quarterbacks you could invest heavily in, knowing that you're going to have to take a loss as far as some weapons on the defense or around the offense elsewhere, but you're trusting that that quarterback's going to overcome some of those deficiencies that exist elsewhere that you can't invest financially into. The 49ers, they're going to get away with it this year. It's not going to be noticeable. In fact, I already can hear the headlines now or read the headlines now when the Niners win 12, 13 games and they're one of the Super Bowl contenders heading into the playoffs. Oh, they paid Brock Purdy. I thought that was going to have an impact on the team. Wait until next offseason when they have to start shedding some of this payroll and some of this talent. Then we'll really see if he's good enough to elevate talent around him. The bottom line is Brock Purdy is the most dangerous quarterback for the Niners to have because they had to pay him. The market said you had to give him this number or you had to move on. The last team that was put in this position where they ultimately decided not to go that route was Cleveland when it came to Baker Mayfield. I remember for Cleveland, it was they were going to be the dumbest team in the world if they paid him, and then they became the dumbest team in the world for just letting him go. And I was like, you're in a lose-lose situation there. You can't let the Andy Daltons or the Baker Mayfields or the Brock Purdys just walk out your door. But also paying them could be a massive financial mistake as well. So I don't envy teams who have quarterbacks like that. It's still tough to find them. But good for you guys for having Joe Burrow because that was an easy decision. There was nobody was losing sleep over having to pay Joe Burrow. I don't care what anyone says in San Francisco. They're not super confident that they made the right choice paying Brock Purdy.
I think the biggest problem in the NFL right now, and we're seeing it most notably with quarterbacks, but I think it's happening with wide receivers a lot as well, that middle tier that you're talking about right there, Justin, is going away. It's almost disappearing because there is no middle tier anymore, right? You're either good enough that you're going to lead the team to the playoffs and then you want $45 to $50 million, or you're not good enough and the team's going to get a new quarterback and you don't get extended. So right now, looking at quarterback contracts, you go Jalen Hurts at $51 million, Kyler Murray $46 million, Deshaun Watson $46 million, Kirk Cousins $45 million, Patrick Mahomes $45 million. Immediately after that, you're straight into Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I think we would all put them in that tier 3 range.
Yeah.
There just isn't a tier 2. Those tier 2 quarterbacks, the Tuas, the Trevor Lawrences, the Jordan Loves, they get QB1 money. And I don't mean tier 1, I mean number 1, which is just crazy. And it's not sustainable. That's why we always talk about this bubble popping. At some point, these rookies are not going to live up to the potential where they can get paid $45 million, and the next class isn't going to be good enough that these teams want to roll the dice. So at some point, we are going to see a $35 million extension for a young quarterback, and I don't know what that's going to do to the rest of the league. Because as of right now, as Bengals fans, we were worried about giving Joe Burrow $55 million. Not worried about his play on the field, as you said, Kenner, but that's the first time as an organization we've had to operate with that kind of cloud over us. We're not quite there yet, but when we do get there in the back half of the 2020s, and we'll see how it works. But every single time that a quarterback gets extended, they slot in right above Joe Burrow, or at least right next to him. Because what did I text you guys as soon as Brock Purdy got signed? Joe Burrow's only making $2 million more than Brock Purdy a year, and that's crazy to me. So whenever that bubble pops, the Brock Purdys of the world are going to stay at 7 or 8, which is going to look really bad as opposed to them falling every single time there's another extension. So we're going to have to see when this bubble pops, but I think it's coming at some point soon.
Yeah, and we'll see. And again, you look at those quarterbacks that are there, those tier 3 QBs, as you mentioned, that are getting tier 1 money. Who's the team that you look out there? I mean, are the Niners in the worst spot when it comes to that? And by the way, you're not allowed to say Cleveland. We can all admit Cleveland stinks. Deshaun Watson stinks. But in all seriousness,
that is the
which
answer.
Are the? Yeah, but for real, take Cleveland now. But you look at the rest of the teams that have paid their quarterbacks. Look at Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, Brock Purdy with San Francisco right now. Heck, you could even look at Jared Goff over with the Lions, where there's just a ceiling for these QBs. Who is the most overpaid quarterback in the NFL when it comes to that angle of it?
I'm going to say Trevor Lawrence, but that might be just because I'm not a Trevor Lawrence guy. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has what it takes. I don't think that he's a $55 million quarterback. I think he's not even a tier 2 quarterback, as Jacob kind of just said there. I think he's a tier 3 quarterback. I don't think he's very good. And having your franchise, a franchise that, with all due respect, they're not known for lighting the world on fire with contracts and having a lot of success in the postseason. Being hindered by $50+ million for a quarterback that hasn't done anything seems a little crazy to me.
Yeah, the two for me are sandwiched around Trevor in terms of guaranteed money for a year. And I could do the bit and say Jalen Hurts, but he just won a Super Bowl, and there's a lot of really, really bad quarterbacks on this list.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go a different direction here. I think the two obvious ones are Jordan Love and Tua. And for two different reasons. I think paying Tua Tagovailoa $55 million a year, $53.5 million a year, he's not on the field, man.
Yeah.
At least these other quarterbacks, if they're playing well or playing poorly, they're out there and they're affecting the outcome of the games. You gave Tua this money, and it's not like you found out afterwards.
No.
You knew beforehand what you were signing up for here, and then he immediately misses about half the season here, and they miss the playoffs, and you're scratching your head about what potentially happens in Miami in terms of roster building. Tyreek Hill wants out. Jalen Ramsey requested a trade. They're still locked into Tua for 3 more years of $53 million? Yikes. That one seems pretty rough. And then Jordan Love, it's the other side of sitting your first-round pick. They draft Jordan Love. He sits for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers. He plays and he looks pretty good. But you have to make a decision. And they made a decision after about 8 good games, and they paid him elite quarterback money. And last year, he didn't look like an elite quarterback.
No.
So we'll see how that ages, but I think Jordan Love is going to be an example that we have to look at for years in the future when we suggest that maybe higher draft picks should sit. If Jordan Love doesn't work out and this contract comes back to bite the Packers, we will never see that again.
This is why when you look at the Browns situation, the reason I didn't want them to draft a quarterback at all this draft is because of the fact that regardless of whether Deshaun's your quarterback or not, he is still contractually your quarterback. And you are, even if you draft a rookie, like if Shador or Dylan Gabriel hits for Cleveland this year, that's great. You're going to get production from your rookie quarterback. That's awesome. But you're still not, you don't have that cap flexibility of having a rookie quarterback who's getting paid like a rookie because you're still paying Deshaun. I didn't want them to draft rookies this year. I wanted them to just find a way to win with the veteran quarterbacks or find a way to compete, if you will, with veteran quarterback. Eat another year of that Deshaun contract, count your losses for this year, possibly even one more year, then move in the direction. Because by the time Deshaun's money's off the books and the rookie quarterbacks that you drafted this year, if one of them hits, you would have never been able to take advantage of that flexibility of that rookie contract actually being on the books. It almost just washes out. You've never would have got that luxury. The Bengals had that luxury. Everyone has that luxury for a bit when you do draft that dominant rookie quarterback that you get to have for a 4-year span. Patrick Mahomes sat for the first year, but was elite year number 1. Right? Like, so you got immediate production out of him. Jordan Love, there's that developmental stage right now, but you're having to ultimately overpay for that developmental stage because he was sitting for so long. So it's a tough decision to make for these teams. But I think for me, the most overpaid quarterback in the NFL happens to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and that's Dak Prescott. I think that right now, Dak making $60 million a year doesn't win playoff games, doesn't win the division, is not healthy very often. I just Trevor Lawrence and others are all valuable when it comes to this conversation as far as being in the conversation of most overpaid. I just don't know. I look at guys like Lamar and Burrow and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and I look at those guys and I'm like, if any of them had 60, you wouldn't hear a peep out of me. I look at Dak and I'm like, I don't get it. I do not understand at all how that guy is getting $60 million a season whatsoever.
He's going to show you this year. Pickens and CD.
You're that guy.
I've been a big Dak guy. Big Dak guy. I always have been. So I'm really optimistic about this season, especially with the overhaul of their offense.
Fair enough. All right. Well, off the bench with you here, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. That does wrap it up for us for the radio side. We'll continue on for a little bit longer here on the stream. But this has been Off the Bench, 1410 ESPN Radio and Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Elliot, Caitlin Clark lost last night. The only reason people know is because I mentioned it. You didn't put it in your headlines. What the hell?
Well, speaking of, I was waiting for the headlines. I have a Caitlin Clark stat for you guys. Caitlin Clark has tied the record in WNBA history for most 20-point, 10-assist games.
Pretty good.
Ooh.
Courtney Vandersloot had 10 in 430 games. Diana Taurasi had 9 in 565. And last night, Caitlin Clark got her 10th in her 42nd game.
That's insane.
That took no time.
That is insane.
She's also tied for second all-time in career triple-doubles.
Jeez.
In 40 career games.
Jeez.
She's the
bad.
best, man.
Do you think
she's no injury, but
when she takes all the records, do you think she'll just retire then? Like it should take like 3 years.
I would imagine.
have
I
all of
hope
them?
she starts her own league.
That would be cool.
Just
The
who
Caitlin
needs
Clark
the
League.
W?
Yeah.
Either way, but
The WNBA has banned booing, so I would.
No, you got Centel.
Oh no, that's Centel.
You're either recovering very nicely or you knew that. I'm assuming that you didn't think that was serious. But anyways, But,
Portnoy got Centelled yesterday.
Yeah, that was generational.
Portnoy, my favorite WNBA fan is Dave Portnoy, as far as that
right.
goes. And by the way, Jake, good for you. You had no clue I was going to just out of nowhere just blurt out Caitlin Clark's name, and you just had that stat ready to fire. You had your phone in your hand. I thought you had it like ready to go. I was like, that was impressive stuff.
I usually have anywhere from 10 to 15 stats saved from a given night. And when Elliot says the name of the game or whatever, I can jump in with which ones I feel like are best.
It just triggers a stat in Jacob's
That's right.
head.
That's right. I try to compile as many as I can late at night when I'm sitting in bed unable to sleep.
There you go. Not bad. Not bad. Hey, something else broke during the break. The big debate in the NFL, the old tush push. What's the update on the old tush push?
It lives. Jason Kelce fought the good fight and kept the tush push around. The non-football rugby play that's a terrible risk of injury and is terrible to watch is going to last for another year against the recommendation of the Competition and Injury Committee.
I like the tush push. I know Jacob hates it. I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's a play that you should be able to stop, and if you can't stop it, well, then that's on you. It's just what happens. Now I will say we'll see how many teams utilize what I believe the Commanders did in the postseason, and that's just jump over the line 40 times and be threatened to just give them a touchdown if it doesn't work. I'm curious to see how many times that's going to happen this year. I'd imagine more times than not, but. I'm not angry at this. I think this is a football play. If you wanted to stop it, there'd be a way to stop it, and unfortunately, the Eagles just run it better than everybody else. The Bills ran this play against the Chiefs. They didn't. They were close. It was close.
No one pushed Josh Allen.
It was close though.
We're not asking to ban the tush push. We're asking to ban the pushing and pulling of a ball carrier.
It was close.
Which was illegal for 90 years in a 105-year history of the NFL.
Bills were unable to do it.
They weren't. No other team tries it. Like, it's not even the same play.
Yeah.
Bills ran a QB sneak, which is fine. Which the Eagles actually get more yards per carry on a traditional QB sneak than a tush push. And they still want to do it for some reason.
It's fun. It's a fun little play.
You don't believe that it's fun. You don't think the tush push is fun to watch.
No.
22 people crowd up around the ball, and we don't get to see the best athletes in the sport do anything.
It's pretty frustrating.
I mean, but what's the difference?
I want to be on the opposite side of Jacob on this one. I want to be on the opposite side. I want to be on the side of the maybe the Bengals will start tush pushing.
I would be against it.
Obviously not with Joe Burrow. We wouldn't do it with our quarterback, but we do it with somebody else.
I want to go sign
Drew Sample tush push.
That's right. Tanner Hudson's on the roster.
Yeah, that's true.
He can do something with him.
He can hold on to the football every once in a while.
No, I'm not like big on the tush push. I don't really have an opinion one way or another. I think it's soft to ban it just because they can't stop it. But Jacob's arguing about the injury front. But you also just said you have all these superstars that you're just taking out of the play and just having this ugly play of them just moving forward. I mean, are we really – what else are we getting? It's just they're picking up a couple yards. It's not that flattering of a play regardless. I mean, I don't get why you're so against this. You're adamant. This is one of your, like, big ones. You are adamant.
There was a drastic rule change about 4 years ago that made it legal. And the entire history of football, this play is illegal. And then, Eagles see a rule change and take advantage of it. So kudos to them, but usually when a team finds a loophole in the rules, you close that up as soon as possible.
Or usually when teams find a loophole in the rules, other teams follow. Other teams just haven't been good enough to do it.
Yeah, because they like to play football and not rugby.
Let's not copy anything that the Super Bowl champions do by any means.
I wouldn't copy paying a quarterback like Jalen Hurts $50 million. I'll tell you that much.
Not even in the top 10. He's not even in the top 10. Super Bowl MVP.
He is, man, isn't he?
Yeah, he
That's
is.
crazy.
Yeah.
What is the tush push being banned? Obviously, it's not. If it did get banned, what would it do for Saquon Barkley's fantasy value? Would he be the running back one of all time?
He'd be the most valuable fantasy player by a wide margin.
By a wide margin.
What was it, like 6 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns he was robbed of last year because of
more?
It's like, yeah, I mean, it's every time
he would go 2020.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it all again. The Packers' proposal to ban the tush push did not receive the required 75% support from the NFL owners to pass, but poor Packers.
I just
22 to 10.
I think
2 votes off.
I think there's a bunch of owners that are like, all right, this works. How can we make this work for us? That's why I think it's not being banned. And again, will it work for somebody else outside of the Eagles? I think that's when it's going to get banned. If like
it's close,
if there's 3 teams or 2 teams that are able to run it that effectively, that's when I think you do something. But if the Eagles are the tush push team, then that's fine. I think it's fun.
The Eagles are just annoying about it too. Like I hate.
They just posted the graphic. Do you see the graphic?
It's coming. It makes me sick how they just parade this crap play around like they're doing God's great gift to football.
It is.
By making us watch this unwatchable nonsense. Well, they just shove their quarterback, who isn't even a quarterback, he's a power lifter. They just shove him across the line. It's terrible. It's terrible. Push on. Push on.
Hey, it's time for our. Oh, hey, KB, real quick. Yeah, Keith Byers is a former Philadelphia Eagle. He just walked in. I know you're about to walk out. Tush push. What's your opinion on the tush push?
I love it.
Yeah.
KB!
I think they ought to get rid of the shotgun start. The quarterback shouldn't be 5 yards away from the quarterback. Get sacked. They can step under the center. Real old school.
All right, there you go. All right, KB's always the tiebreaker in these little debates.
That was a good response. That was a good response.
I lost last time. You lost this one.
Yeah,
so,
there we go. No, this show is rarely on the same page.
Yeah.
We do agree empirically that if we're having a debate, KB is the deciding factor.
KB is the tie vote.
Former Philadelphia Eagle himself too, so that obviously feeds into.
Most importantly,
I guess he walked out, but a follow-up question would be: but he's a former Philadelphia Eagles running back, though. You talked about Saquon having
they're
touchdowns.
taking your touchdowns.
So maybe when he comes back in, if it's in the next 60 seconds, we'll have a chance to
tush
follow
push
up with
gives the quarterback touchdowns. What does he want Doug Flutie to have more touchdowns that year? That would have been nonsense.
Yeah,
he never played with Doug Flutie.
No. I'm saying if Doug Flutie had the QB sneak and was racking up touchdowns, Keith Byers wouldn't have won the Heisman that he should have won.
Yeah,
because in my mind, that's his Heisman.
In his mind, in our mind, it is too.
There we go.
As far as it goes. Anything else? Again, the Reds about to get underway here in just under 45 minutes or whatever. We gave our score predictions earlier. Pearl, have you changed your mind? We'll get you back in here before we wrap this up. Have you changed your mind? You said 4-2. Was that what was your prediction earlier again?
Yeah, I said 4-2. I don't know. I'll hold firm.
That's not very confident at all.
I saw people are getting very upset. I do like the Terry Francona discourse. It's a lot of fun being an outsider on that one because I don't really care. And to see, I saw Mr. Mo. I saw Mr. Mo's response to us, and he says everybody at this company, the company being Chatterbox, all we all do is complain, which is honestly somewhat true. I do complain more than the average person. I would say this though. I think I'm going to be right on this. I'm not going to take a victory lap. I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm not going to take a victory lap. We're only 50 games in, so a lot of baseball left to be played. Reds can make some sort of run. I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs, but to each their own. Maybe they do. Maybe they go on some miracle run on the back of Terry Francona. But if they don't, I would say I'm going to be saying to myself a lot that you were right, buddy. I'm going to just compliment myself.
You were.
Not yet.
Well,
but it sure looks like
it. What's your boy CES up to?
I'm not going to go on the CES victory lap. I won't do it. That's too negative. That's too negative.
Do we do an hour on Monday since we're the Stolen Bit show?
Yeah.
Where Elliot was right?
Where Elliot was right.
I think we're going to have to do where Elliot was right.
How many things have I been right about? The Pirates. I get the Pirates.
Not if they win today.
I get the Pirates. Whether or not they win.
Your take wasn't that the Pirates are bad. It's that they're worse than the Reds.
We still have the season series over them, though. We swept them the last time.
Okay, then I guess we can leave it till the end of the season.
Until the end of the season, I get the Pirates.
CES.
Terry Francona, CES.
Terry Francona. David Bell.
David Bell. Well, but David Bell, you can't prove I was right on that one.
Yeah, you can.
Can I?
Yeah.
If they don't make the playoffs, then I was
sure.
right. All right, then I'll take that. Anything else? I was wrong about how the Bengals looked during a 10-game winning streak.
That they covered every game.
You know where I'm really wrong? You know what I'm really wrong? Colorado being a tough place to play has all-time backfired on me.
Are you ready to wave that white flag yet?
I'm ready. I'm waving it. I'm waving it. It's over. I lost the Colorado Rockies debate. I lost it.
Good.
I said it was a tough place to play. The Rockies are real good at home. Boy,
they've won 10 games since.
They've won 8 games this year in 50 tries. Woo!
Man,
I was right about the Cleveland Browns too, and Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston
and Deshaun Watson.
And everybody I think was right on that one. I think except for the court.
Oh, never went to court.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. He used that guaranteed money.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does wrap it up for us. Reds coming up here in a little bit. We'll recap that tomorrow. Hopefully, talking about a dang series win, so that we can hype up the Cubs series. Because I don't know what the hell we'll do if they lose this one today. To be honest with you, I might call off tomorrow. I'm excited.
Before we get out of here, Spirit Cat sends us a nice stat in the chat. Last 10 years, Reds 677 and 841. The Pirates 696 and 820. About 20 more wins.
Well,
where Elliot was wrong.
We should just fully steal it and just acknowledge that we've stolen it and lean into it.
Reed said, Elliot, you said the Browns were making the AFC Championship. They lost the wild card by 45. They did.
We know, Reed. Thank you.
But
Elliot said they were making the AFC Championship.
I said the over would be a lock in that game, and that hit.
You also said they'd cover.
Yeah, well, can't be right about everything. We have a super chat. Did we read Colton's super chat yet?
We did not.
Okay, let me read Colton's super chat before we go. Colton, member for 19 months. Love you, Colton. Whatever Tito was on last night, leaving Espinal in, I need some of that. In parentheses, the strong stuff. Yeah. Absolute joke.
It's legal in Ohio. There's dispensaries everywhere. I'm sure. Just go ask. I'm sure they'll have the Francona special when you walk in.
Jesus.
So, on that note, we are done. We'll do this again tomorrow. Until tomorrow, Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton.
Adios.